Hello, everybody. We continue our members-only events with Generation Female, and today we are hosting you for a very interesting webinar. An eyeglass on the innovation start with the beginning. In general, innovation is the engine of growth. Without it, even the most successful companies can go extinct. Innovation is the weapon used to gain business or to create new markets. So we are always chasing innovation in both business and private life. Today, we are hosting Alina Vicovan for this topic and discussion. Hello, Alina. Welcome to Generation Female.
Hello, everyone. I'm very happy to be here with you today.
I would like to give you stage and let you please tell us about innovation and introduce yourself.
Yes, I will do that in a second. Are you able to see the slides, my presentation?
Yes.
So again, hello, everyone. I'm very excited to be here today. The topic of the discussion is innovation. It's a never-ending topic. I'm sure you have a lot of questions about it and a lot of opinions about it. In my culture, we say that every man can talk about football and politics. I think in business world, everyone can talk about innovation. So here I am sharing with you part of my experience with innovation. But before I do that, I would like to introduce myself. I am what we call a global nomad. I'm Romanian by nationality, but I really move places from place to place. I love traveling and I love living in different countries. My work experience is over 25 years, and I worked in large multinationals like Philip Morris, like Ericsson. Within the last 5 years, I focused my attention on innovation. What makes innovation successful? How can we drive innovation in organizations, small or large? I'm also writing a book about importance of constructive dissent within the business because group thinking doesn't bring a lot of good ideas. And last but not least, I'm also focusing on developing a platform that would hopefully help businesses run by women become bigger and grow. I love stories, and because I love stories, every time when there's an opportunity to share one or to learn one, I'll be the first one in. We are living in very transformational times. I'm not going to say anything new. I'm sure you've heard this before. In every crisis, there's a lot of opportunity. And why is this happening? It's because when there's a crisis, when when things are not going well, the problems that have been hidden for many, many years suddenly become much more visible, much more acute, and people need to take actions. So crisis always generates a lot of opportunities. And today, for instance, it's very difficult to open an annual report without seeing topics about innovation, because innovation is what gets us out of the crisis. As I said, I love stories. So I will tell you a story. I will begin with a story. Many, many years ago, like 2,500 years ago, the discussion started, at least what is documented. Discussion started about what's the center of the universe. And there were a lot of very smart people like Aristotle and Plato that back like more than 2,000, almost 2,500 years ago, they believed that Earth is the center of the universe and everything else revolves around it, like sun and moon and stars and everything else. But within the same time, there was another scientist, Aristarchus of Samos, and he believed that actually geocentrism was not right, and we're living in a heliocentrism, meaning that Earth revolves around the sun. Of course, his theories have been challenged significantly because people said that Earth would move. That would be very difficult for humans to continue standing. Of course, his theories have been confirmed 1,600 years later when scientists like Copernicus and Galileo Galilei used the advanced physics and advanced science of the day to prove the heliocentrism being the right approach. Of course, this is a story that doesn't necessarily have to be 100% historically accurate, but what is the meaning of the story behind is that the meaning behind the story is that things actually do not last forever. What we believe today as being true and valid, it's going to be it can be proven wrong or different within a matter of weeks, years, or centuries. So I think the message behind this story is that we always should keep an open mind on what do we believe and how do we approach changes. And when some of our beliefs are a bit questioned, how big is our inertia and how willing are we to listen? So today I'm going to try to break some of these geocentrisms that we have in terms of innovation based on the observations that I had. When we talk about innovation, as I said, it's a never-ending story. Everybody has different opinions. But what is actually the right answer is very difficult to say. My observations are that innovation is not something that you just take and you apply everywhere and it's going to work. It's not a simple recipe. It's very context specific, it's very organizational specific, but there are certain things that we could definitely move from one place to another. I don't know how many of you are familiar with this image. This is the Russian nesting dolls, matryoshka, so called. It's a very interesting story. This is a traditional Russian souvenir. You find it in all the Russian souvenir stores, but it's a very interesting idea behind it. It's a nesting doll. It starts with a bigger one. You can open it up in half, and inside there's another one, smaller. And you open it up, and there's another one smaller. And it goes like this up to the last piece that cannot be broken anymore. So this is the essence of Matryoshka doll. These dolls are actually built from one piece of wood. You cannot mix wood behind it. And in the manufacturing process, you always need to start with the smallest one. So you start from the smallest one and then you build to the largest. 100 and something years ago, when they became more common in Russia, they were very valued for the wood craftsmanship. But today, the value of these Matryoshka dolls are actually within the story that's painted on the exterior of the dolls. So as you open up the dolls, you kind of discover the whole story behind. I think this is a very interesting metaphor when it comes to innovation, because when we look at innovation today, we always feel like we need to start from the outside. We are talking about out of the box mentality, out of the box big ideas. We want to see outcomes, we want to see results, fantastic new opportunities. So when I talk about out of the box, my observation is that out of the box, it's an interesting concept, but it's very vague. It's out there and nowhere. So for me, it'd be very interesting before we start jumping out of the box to understand what the box is all about. So when we talk about innovation, a lot of people say, okay, I want to come up with this really, really great idea, big idea. Sometimes we don't even know what it is. But if we want to achieve a big idea, what are the skills that we need? And they start talking about people that they need to hire, the resources they need to put behind. Organizations are investing a lot of money in creating all sorts of fancy processes for innovation with gate processes, with incubators and all sorts of very complex structures behind. Metrics are put in place. How do we measure the results of our innovation? Timing, how fast do we want to innovate? If we're comparing, we're benchmarking with competitors, with other industries. What's the type of leadership that we want to ensure in order for innovation process and innovation vibe to go through the organization? So these are very valid questions and very important elements to be addressed. But for me, it starts with the wrong end of the question, because for innovation, and that's why I'm separating the word innovation, it should start from within. And it should start with the smallest part that you cannot break anymore. And that's the problem. When we talk about problems, I don't know what's your reaction, but people usually, when they hear the word problem, they feel like a big, bad, black cloud of worries. It suddenly appears on top of their heads. We feel anxiety, we're afraid, aversion. We really do not like people that are bringing problems to us. And we immediately start avoiding and deflecting. The best way, or the most common way to deflect for people, is to imagine a very, very smooth road towards problem solving. So the moment a problem appears, the immediate reaction is to move into problem solving mode. Very interesting. The origin of the word problem, the Greek origin of the word problem, actually meant something a bit different. It meant when we bring a problem, we're actually putting forward some questions. We're putting it forward for discussion. The word became a bit more negative within 1400s when we started learning math in school and we learned about problems, math problems. And this is when the word problem as such became a negative and had a negative connotation. But the reality is that problem is something that hides a very big opportunity. So instead of jumping into problem solving, we need to do, in my view, something different. One of the first business geocentrism I want to break with you today is we are searching for problem solvers, but in reality, we should actually look for problem finders. Why I'm saying that? I think we're all familiar with situations where you heard a lot, oh, don't come to me with problems. I need solutions. When you look at LinkedIn, you see a lot of recruiters and a lot of job advertising searching for problem solvers. On the CVs and profiles, problem solvers always come up very, very high on the ranking. And solving problems is really very good and very helpful, and far from me to criticize it or to judge it. But the question is, are we solving the right problem? So that's why I believe that instead of focusing on the largest matryoshka doll, we should go back to the roots, to the essence, and to understand what is the problem. So we need people that are able to go and scout problems, what I'm calling problem finders. In my experience, problem finders, they have a lot of attributes. What is very, very common for problem finders, in my view, is that they have a big confidence with negativity. They ask a lot of questions and they ask in-depth questions. And using all of this information, they can articulate and narrow down the right problem. When I talk about negatives, especially in the world today when everything is super positive and think optimistic and fake it till you make it sort of mantra, loving negatives, it's a bit counterintuitive. But problem finders are actually people that really can understand where consumers are struggling, where are the problems. They understand what I'm calling the 4 A's, the annoyances, the avoidances, the alternatives, or the absences in consumers' lives. So they understand what consumers dislike, what they complain about, what are the steps that they skip, what are the solutions they try to find on their own, and what's missing. And just to give you some of the few examples, but there are so many that, we could talk about for days, how many examples are actually rooted from this type of approaches. If we look at what annoys consumers, I'll take a simple example that we're all familiar with, which is detergent. You have the powder, and this is an annoyance for me because every time when I'm using powdered detergent, I spill it on the floor. I have to carry a big box, a cardboard box in the bathroom. Because of humidity, it becomes stuck and I can't really use it. So I don't really like it. What annoys me, if I use liquid detergent, I always spill it on the floor. I don't know how much I need to use it. Is it enough? Is not enough? So companies created an alternative or a solution for all of these annoyances, which is the detergent pods. Of course, you can criticize those as well, but I'm just saying this is how innovation starts to pop up. If you're watching TV, to give another example, of course, you have a lot of commercials that are annoying you. So what do? You move to streaming channels like Netflix and Amazon, where the annoyance of commercials and advertising is gone. If we look into, for instance, other things that are annoying us, are waste or exaggerated costs. I have an entire cupboard of clothes that I don't wear anymore, but they are good quality. They are still good, and I don't want to throw them away. But imagine this is where companies are coming and saying, there's a market for previously owned clothes, and this is an opportunity for me. H&M, for instance, installed the loop machines, recycling machines in the store. So if you have items that you do not know, you don't use anymore, you cannot resell, but you just want to dispose in a right manner, you go and you use it in their store. So this is just an example. If we look into, I'm sorry, just 1 second. If we look into, somehow that doesn't work, into what consumers are avoiding, let's take health checks. We are not very excited to go to annual checks, or we are not very excited to exercise, especially on a rainy day, or we're not really excited to invest. We don't see the rainy day in the future. We want to live for today. So these are the type of negatives that are impacting consumers. And smart companies are coming up with solutions. For investment, you have all sorts of savvy saving apps, you have education. For exercise, you have all sorts of devices that are kind of encouraging you to get out of bed and move, communities that you can join so you get encouragement. For health checks, you have an entire redesigning of experience. You have automatic appointments, you have online diagnosis, and so on and so forth. So there are a lot of solutions that are coming really from the negatives. If we talk about alternatives, and this is the last example I'm using, if a new software is installed in a company, it's very difficult for employees to, not all the time they get it immediately. So what are the alternatives they use? Instead of kind of trying to discover it themselves, they go for their colleagues or they go for the help desk. But this triggers a lot of costs because interrupting colleagues is a waste. Excessive help desk cost is a waste. So solutions for this are kind of step-by-step walk-through softwares that help you to navigate new softwares or new websites on your own without disturbing other colleagues or help desk. So these are just a few examples of how much you can do with the negativity. I talked about problem finders, that they are very comfortable with questions and they ask a lot of questions. It's about quantity of questions and it's about quality of questions. For those of you who have kids within the range of 2 to 5 years old, you're very familiar with the river of questions that they throw every day. And these questions, some of them are actually really cool questions, like why is the sky blue? Why is the water falling? And so on and so forth. But as we grow old, we do not know to ask questions anymore because we are evaluated all the times on answers. Are we giving the right answers? Not are we asking the right question? So bit by bit, we start liking less and less the questions. And our questions become like from why are the clouds moving to what's for dinner, who picks up the kids, and mundane stuff like that. The problem finders have a continuous appetite for asking questions. They never give up. They continuously asking questions. And what's also interesting about the questions that they ask is that they have an ability to dig deeper. There's a technique which is called 5 whys. And what do? You have a question and then you start asking why and why and why and why. And you do that 5 times until you reach the box, the treasure box, which contains the right question. Just to give you an example, because we are a generation female, I'm going to talk a lot about female. There is clear a fact that women have less money than men today. And obviously the question is why? There are many answers. One of them, usually they have less qualified jobs, that they pay less. Even for the same job, they get less money than their male counterparts. And last but definitely not least, women also invest less. So if we go on this avenue and we start asking, well, why are they investing less? We get to different sort of solutions. Because men in households usually are the ones deciding. But why is this? Because they have the knowledge, they have the confidence, they understand how investments should be done. But why are they only one knowing this? Because throughout their life, men usually receive the education related to investment, the support. They network together with other men and they talk about investment. It's part of their conversation, it's part of their network, it's part of their support. Because the whole financial system is a system built by men for men. Once we sort of dig to this treasure box, the question is, what can we do about it? And keep this in mind because we're going to come back to the one potential solution. But before I get there, I would like to break another geocentrism for you. A lot of companies today are talking about consumer centricity. And do not misunderstand me. I love consumers. I think we should be really loving them, understanding them, make everything for them to be happy, because that's in the end of the day the key for success. Yeah. But the problem is that when we talk about consumer centricity today, some of the companies are talking about my current consumers today. They don't talk about the ones that are out there, they don't know about them, and they don't use the products. Being consumer centricity just for your products today can be extremely dangerous. I mean, we have examples like Kodak and Xerox and other companies, or even Nokia, when you think about it, that missed a lot of opportunities because what they focused was the focus was for them just on current consumers, ignoring what's out there. A very nice quote that I really, really like. Henry Ford used to say, if I would have asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses, because consumers that we have today, they don't even know what they don't know. They don't know what's possible. So focusing just on a narrow part, it's not going to help. Remember, we talk about why, and what's the solution? If we build it backwards, so if you remember, we stopped here on men build system. But then the question comes is, how would the world look like if we would build a system that would be focused on women? What does it mean? We will try to remove all the barriers women have today to invest. What are some of these barriers? They do not have the knowledge. How about educating women about investment? They do not have confidence to decide today. But if they have knowledge, definitely they will be way more confident to decide. And if they have more confidence to decide, they will do that. So women will end up investing more. One company that I admire a lot, it's called Elvest, created actually a platform for investment for women. They truly understand what are the needs of these customers that are completely ignored by the traditional banking system and investment system. They understand that women live longer. They peak salary actually happens earlier than men because after that they go in maternity leaves and it's very difficult to recover after. And they have lower income. So today this company, that's a financial company for women by women, has more than $1 billion in management assets. They have more than 120,000 users that are, a majority of them, 90%, more than 90% of them are women. This was just one example of starting with a problem, understanding through deep questions what is the key problem, and then moving back to a potential solution. Of course, there are many other solutions. This is not the only way how women can make more money, but it's a solution. So if I have to summarize the topic for today, my observation, my recommendations, what I'm really encouraging you to do is don't be afraid of negatives. When people complain, when people are frustrated, these are actually the birthplace of innovation, of good ideas, of really finding problems. Don't be ashamed of asking questions. Be the dog with the bone. Ask the 5 whys and why and why and why and why until you get to the right problem. Because you can create solutions for everything. But if you do not fix the problem, it's a waste of resources. And this happens a lot in the organizations. Once you have defined the problem, you can then start building the solution. You can build your matryoshka upwards. You can have your story, but without the right problem, you will not be able to do it. So tomorrow morning, when you wake up and you see the sun, even if you don't see it and it's cloudy, it's there. Remember that what you knew may be wrong or may change. So keep an open mind. Problems are good. Problems are fantastic. Negatives are very helpful, and questions are our own best friends. And with them, we can find people that today are not in our consideration set. So this is what I wanted to share with you today. And I don't know if there are any questions that you have.
Thank you so much, Alina. Yes, we have a question from our auditor, if you don't mind. So maybe we can reply on it. The first brilliant question we got: how to be innovative in this very competitive world?
How to be innovative. I mean, of course, there are many answers. My view on that is you really need to take time to understand what is the problem that you're trying to solve. I think we all want to be Steve Jobs or Bill Gates or Elon Musk or whatever. We have very big sort of expectations that are kind of discouraging us. We put a lot of expectation behind us, when in reality, there's opportunities to innovate every single day. So I think be curious and be really willing to spend most of the time defining the problem, because once you know exactly what you're looking for, you will be able to draw in all sorts of um, experiences, people to come up with solutions. So my recommendation, I think the most successful innovations I've seen were especially when people took the time to understand what is it that they try to solve. I'm not so sure if I'm answering the question.
Okay, thank you. We have another one
Okay.
from another guest or who's listening us and stay with us. What will be next in innovation area from your point of view?
Oh, there are many. There are going to be so many innovations. I mean, it's once you jump out of the box, there's no even the sky the limit. You know, there's no limit. There are many innovations that are going to happen. I think for me, what I would like to see, I think what would be very helpful is what is the innovation in terms of education, because I feel our education system is highly obsolete. As I said, we are afraid of questions and we're focusing only on answers in the world of Wikipedia and Google search. I think this is a really wrong approach. So for me, innovation is going to go in all directions, but if we find a way to innovate within education and development of people, I think we would have a continuous source of all the other innovations.
Thank you. And we have another one. So there are differences in culture that influence the questioning process.
I think culture, if I correctly understand the question, how the culture influences the number of questions or the ability to ask questions. I think um, culture has a very big impact. I'm not ignoring this. Um, I worked and lived in different cultures, and even when, from my experience with corporations, within the same corporation, when you move from one country to another, it takes a lot of time to encourage people to ask questions, for instance. Yeah. So I think this is really a very long exercise, because society as such kind of diminishes our willingness to ask questions. Of course, it's a matter of how do you ask the question. You can be polite, you can be respectful, you can be genuinely curious, or you can be mean and vindictive hidden behind the question. So of course, society has an impact, culture has an impact, personal way has an impact. um, but I guess the exercise, the practice of continuously asking questions, it's something that once we build, we can include it in all the societies and in all the cultures that we have. I'll give you a simple example. If you have a personal question that you kind of have in your mind and you don't really have an answer, try this 5 whys with that particular problem that you're dealing. And you will see what type of surprising answers you will get. And okay, I'm stopping sharing screen. Sorry about that. So you will see how surprising answers you will get. And then with this personal experience will be easier to kind of expand it with it, even in a culture that's not necessarily encouraging for questions.
Okay, thank you. Let's pick up next question. Do you think that there is a right number of questions to get to the treasury? Not too many to make the other party nervous. Interesting question.
Usually how should I say, the Japanese experience in Toyota was 5 times. Yeah, the 5 whys, they say it's about right number. If you look at matryoshka dolls, usually they have between 3 to 8 dolls in a set. So if you use this parallel, so of course it's not, it's not necessarily an exact number. But I think the point here is that you always need to try to ask a few more times, not to stop for the first obvious answer, to try to dig deeper, how deep the treasure is hidden. Of course, it's subject to context and it's subject to problem, but usually the experience is between, like 4 to 6 sort of whys. I mean, don't stop at the first 1 or 2 whys, because that's too little. You don't dig deep enough.
Thank you. Let me pick next question. We have a very active auditor today. Which companies like Elvest, you didn't run the risk of being too close versus the big picture and being self-centered instead of promoting a common sharing and base?
I am not so sure I understand exactly the question, but I'm trying to jump with an answer. Hopefully, if it's not, then I would like to get an additional question if I don't get it right, or if I'm not answering. There's a debate of, I mean, do you go everywhere and you talk to everyone, or do you go and kind of find your own sort of message and your own solution? If men do not have the same problem as women, why would I offer them something that doesn't solve any of their problems? It's just an innovation, but it doesn't talk to them. So I think there are pluses in being strategic and really understanding what is the problem that you're solving. And if the problem does not apply to everyone, so be it. Facebook is a good solution because it solves a problem of connectivity that applies to a very, very large audience related to the world. But other solutions may not necessarily be addressing, I mean, other problems may not necessarily be so wide. So that's why I would always go for really focusing on what's the problem that you're trying to solve and who are the people that have this problem, even if they are today your customers or not.
Thank you very much, Alina. This question was from Andy. If you didn't answer on this question, or maybe if Andy would like to know a little more, we are welcome on forum, which is for members only, and you can ask more precise questions, Alina.
You can also contact me on LinkedIn and we can chat, no problem. Sure. If I don't answer all the questions as to your satisfaction, please reach out, no problem.
Yeah, and I would like to pick last question, which you have been leaving on our website. Which recommendation would you give on how to start innovative, friendly environment in a team?
Okay, I have an answer. You need to create diverse team that are willing and able to accommodate dissent. I mean, whatever I've seen in terms of innovation, the teams that are the most successful and generate really valuable information are the teams that are willing to work with different views and they do not take it personally. Group thinking, in my view, is the kiss of death for innovation. When you have people that are fighting constructively, I'm not talking about aggressivity or rudeness, but when they have the confidence to share what they think and their value, their diversity is actually included and valued, this is to me the best way to achieve innovation, because diverse perspective will always bring you problems, will always bring you discussions, will always help you find solutions.
Thank you so much, Alina. And I can see on the website that Andy just replied to your perfect answer. Thanks.
Great. Thank you.
I would like to thank you for your time and to sharing with us. And we talk about innovation. We see that this topic is really hot. People would love to listen, would like to participate, would like to share experience. I'm engaging everybody. Please have a look at other webinars and educational content which we provided on platform Generation Female. If you like to talk with the speakers offline, you easily can find them, as Alina just mentioned, on LinkedIn or on our website as well. Alina, thank you so much, and I'm wishing you a perfect day. Always my pleasure to meet great people around the world.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. And don't be afraid to ask questions and don't be afraid of problems. Really, love problems.